Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 10th episode of EDspresso Café. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you.
Hi, Linda. Good to see you.
I'm so pleased that we're chatting to you this afternoon. So I'm joined this afternoon by Linda Bradfield. She used to be the EdTech leader at St. Mary's Waverley, and she is now the PBL coordinator. Is that your title?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So I've known Linda for quite a few years now, and we both share a lot of common passions. Project-based learning is one of them, technology integration, and just general innovative awesomeness. I think that's the best way to describe it, right? But we're sharing a cuppa to chat a little bit more about the amazing things that Linda has been doing at St. Mary's. And I was intrigued to read that you have, what is it called, eSteam. You have a whole program designed around innovative thinking and project-based learning and those kinds of things. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that to kick us off.
Yeah, sure, Lindsay. Great to be with you. We started this PBL thing about 8 years ago and called it E4. There were 4 E's for engaging, enriching, exciting, and what's the other one? Engaging, enriching. I don't know, Lindsay, what the other one is. And over the years, it evolved and just became PBL, and now it's called actually self-esteem, a small E, capital S-T-E.
Right. Okay.
So as we all know, STEAM, the science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths, and then we decided to hook the self up front because it's about developing the child's overall self-esteem, going back to EEM. So that's where that comes from.
And what does it kind of look like in your school? What are some of the things you do in that program? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's been really amazing over the last, I think we're into our 3rd year of so-called self-esteem. And yeah, so the girls follow it over a 2-year period. They do it in grade 8 and grade 9. And so over the course of the 2 years, they do 6 projects. And we've noticed quite a development in those girls, because when they move into grade 10, they come back, because we have, it's called 9th period, for want of a better word. And they come back and they want to try all sorts of different things in our make her space. And they tinker there and they chat and they pull the place to pieces mostly. But we have that environment for them. A couple of them came in and they did the NASA loo challenge, where they built a loo that would work on the moon. And they used a 3D printer and they made their prototypes and they submitted to NASA. So that's the kind of thing that they've gone on to and done of their own accord.
Following your eSteam.
Yeah.
So what's the vision behind that program and that learning? Why do you have that program in place? I mean, I'm hearing what it does. What was the thinking?
Yeah, so it's to give them that opportunity to work independently, because we collapse the timetable totally for a 2-week period when they're doing a project. So they kind of get this notion of they're free, which sometimes, teachers find that really scary. But at the end of the day, it's amazing what they do produce. It is scaffolded along the way, and there are certain criteria to meet along the way as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So Linda, for those of you watching, Linda has been kind enough to share that the whole document around the eSteam program, as well as one of the examples of the projects that you do. So if you pop to purpleza.co.za/stories, and you'll see Linda's face there next to Lorato, another awesome innovative teacher. And if you click on that, that'll take you into Linda's story of your Hidden Figures project. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more. If you're watching, feel free to kind of pop over there and look through it while Linda's chatting us through. I love the idea of engaging girls and young women in the study of of females who've really gone beyond the norm, and who've broken down all of the glass ceilings that we still see so much of today. But I'm intrigued to know what your thinking was behind that particular project and how you got to start that.
Yeah, so at the time, our school was going through, as I suppose a whole lot of you are, this whole transformation thing. But we were kind of hit hard by a couple of old girls that we never expected. And at the same time, they brought up not just racial issues, but gender issues. So we thought, okay, because they tell you always when you're doing PBL that you've got to find a real life situation, which is like mega difficult. It's quite, I know when I first started, for me, that was the scariest part, was how am I going to make this real? So also we were going into lockdown, so the girls were going to have to work at home, which has added another dimension to the whole project. And so that's where it came about. We called it Hidden Figures, because the idea was that they were to be able to find a female figure to identify with, and also who they could emulate. So going forward, I think I did it for 5 or 6 weeks after the project. They kept a diary of what they did during that week that emulated a particular woman that they studied. So that was really cool.
I think especially with teenagers, where you grapple so with that sense of identity, to constructively design learning around that, and to actually have the courage to respond. I think so often these issues and challenges that we're facing around transformation, inclusivity, schools being a place where all of our children belong. It's so easy to sort of shy away and not want to say anything or do anything out of fear. But I really love that you stood sort of in the face of that and said, well, right, how do we empower our girls now with a sense of identity? How do we address these issues in a project-based learning context? I just think it's such an example that many of us can follow, rather than shying away from these things. So obviously you're being in lockdown, that must have meant a lot, that potentially it was a lot of individual learning, I'm just guessing, and maybe a little bit different from how this program has been in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about the learning activities and sort of how you managed to keep them engaged even though they were learning from home?
So normally our projects, the 4 C's come into it, one of them being collaboration. So now this wasn't so successful. The reason we didn't put collaboration is because it's one of their first projects in this 2-year period. They were grade 8s. So collaborating online would add a whole new dimension. So we kept it as individuals, and the skill, I don't know, Lindsay, you have put that in the story. We create our own, we still call it a CAPS curriculum. So it's our CAPS for self-esteem. So we don't always go to the other subjects to do curriculum integration per se. So that gives us an added advantage. Not to say that we don't integrate the curriculum. We do.
But I kind of see it as you're going beyond the curriculum, right? You're extending the thinking into the real world, making it very practical, very meaningful, building on what's already in the curriculum and those skills, right?
Yeah, like in this project, it was research skills, because we thought that was good for the beginning of their high school career. And then they were writing a biography. So, the English department came on board with giving them criteria for that, which was absolutely marvelous. And we thought that was enough for grade 8s for the beginning of the PBL journey.
I mean, you have a lot of wisdom to share because you've been doing project-based learning for a while now. I think that, even selecting one of those 21st century skills and really being intentional about developing that, rather than trying to hit them all the time, is actually a really wise approach. I think it can be very overwhelming when it's like, we have to do this whole thing and all of these skills. Are there any other, so other than kind of streamlining and focusing on what is the skill that we want to develop here and being really intentional about developing that, what are some of the other strategies that you found are helpful in creating projects that students really connect with and in keeping students engaged in this kind of learning?
I think the fact that the freedom of choice. So, one of the PBL criteria is student voice and choice. So they could pick anybody. And in actual fact, our intention was met and went way beyond, because we didn't believe what we saw at the end of it. Because with this whole transformation, we're focusing on the majority and not so much our minority groups. And it gave our minority groups who are in school, they're the hidden figures in themselves. So
silent often, yeah.
So they were able to express themselves according to their cultures and their belief systems. So that for me was absolutely fascinating, and that kept them truly engaged. And the other issue was that they were going to have this voice at the end of the day, in that their biographies were published onto our digital library system for anybody in the school community, which goes beyond teachers and students. It goes to parents, past pupils, etc. So they really put their heads down. And we also asked them, we thought, well, seeing as that you're at home, let's bring the whole family and the wider community on board. And if you read some of their stories, you'll see they had to get reviews for what they wrote. And the moms and the dads and the aunts and the stepmoms and older brothers and sisters came on board and did reviews on their work. So they were so proud of what they'd done through that.
So you mentioned your, the publishing to an authentic audience, and I think in a lot of our EDspresso cafes we've chatted about that. And I think it really does, giving that authentic audience, it levels up the learning, and it makes our students really connect in a different way. Are there some practical pieces of advice that you would give in terms of things that you feel really make project-based learning effective? Things that you do that maybe we won't necessarily see if we read the story on the website, but things that you do in terms of, I don't know, strategies, practicalities, use of technology, anything that you really good?
So, technology, plays a huge role. I remember 10 years ago when I started this, one of the criteria was you had to integrate technology. And, that was really hard for people because they didn't have it. But now it's almost a given. And the whole project is delivered via Google Classroom. So I set it up in a very, especially for these grade 8s, in quite a streamlined fashion, day by day, what is expected of them. And there's always, what do you hope to achieve today? There's always a reflection at the end of each day, different kinds of reflections, not always about how my day went in terms of work.
Right, exactly.
But, how my day went in terms of difficulties. The dog was barking the whole day. The hardy-dars were singing,
Exactly.
So, we also, communication is essential. Going back to one of the C's. So we show them, how to communicate via Google Classroom. Our facilitating team comments regularly. It's hectic, because we set a lot of these minor tasks along the way. So, and we always comment, and they come back with their thank yous, or I'll redo that, I'll change that. So it's really nice.
But it really is that guide. It really is that guide on the side. I think that learning online forced us to do that. But I think it's really important that even when we are back in face-to-face classrooms, that we almost think of ourselves more of that as that online teacher who can go in and can comment and can, whether it's digitally or in person or both. That whole facilitation role really does drive project-based learning. I saw it in my own classroom, and I couldn't agree with you more. That's fantastic. Any other sort of practical pieces of advice that you think teachers who are engaging in project-based learning could benefit from?
I think is to develop your project timeline. It's part of your planning strategy, is to map out your time that's available to you according to your your timetable and the way your school
Absolutely, yeah.
wants to do it. And a lot of people propose that you start with the end in mind. And, what do we want these children to do at the end of the day, and maybe who the audience is? And for the real live aspect, we like to bring in guest speakers, guest facilitators, other adults. We found, though, that they love it if we bring in like students, if they're studying something in that particular field, and particularly if they're male, in a girls' school.
Girls' school.
Yeah, in our last project.
Who's watching on YouTube is saying that she's loving the reflection that you built in through Google Classroom. So that's awesome. So glad you're watching, Lance.
So, we've had fascinating webinars online where we have guest speakers. For our hidden figures, we had Sally Williams, for example, because she was a granny of one of our students. And
the Nougat lady.
The Nougat lady, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that particular child actually chose to do her. And it was so lovely, the anecdotes, because we encouraged that as well. The part of the biography is the easy reading aspect. It's not just, an academic journal that you're writing.
Right, exactly.
It must be appealing to your audience.
And I think that, I've chatted to you about a few of your PBL learning designs, and I think that real world engagement is absolutely just so key. I think so often we worry, how am I going to keep the students engaged? And actually, it's really around connecting them to things that matter. And that's one of the beautiful spaces that PBL gives us, isn't it?
Yeah. And to go back to technology, you can link them with people around the world. We had a lady doing marketing for BMW talk to them when we did our project called #InItTogether about well-being during the lockdown. And they just participated so amazingly well when they saw what women can do in this world. It was great.
Just such inspirational stuff, Linda. Thank you so much for sharing. It's just really, really brilliant to be able to sit on the couch with you, even if it's virtually. So if you haven't already, pop to the website and had a read of all of the amazing stories of innovation that we have there from South African teachers, like Linda, who's a real icon in this space. Do yourself a favor and pour yourself another cuppa and go and pop over there and have a read and have an explore. You'll see Linda's icons are there, so you can reach out to her, pop her a mail, pop her a message on Twitter, and connect. And let's keep on building this community of innovative educators. If you want some support, we have some really exciting webinars coming up, launching later this May. So we've got some Friday fun webinars, and we also have, Linda was talking about the use of technology. So we've got a Google Level 1 exam preparation masterclass called Level Up to Level 1, and one to help you become more of a learning architect, which quite clearly Linda definitely is. So we'd love for you to join us for some of those if you want to. Linda, as we wrap up, any kind of conclusions, anything that you feel you want people to know about, or when you experience you want to share? You've just got such a wealth of knowledge, we could talk all afternoon, but anything in particular that's a message for the teachers that are watching?
It's a case of don't give up. You can do it. The first time I went to a workshop on PBL, I cried on my drive home. I thought these people are crazy. And it came to me in the middle of the night. And, start small, as Lindsay said. Make it an hour-long project. Then make it a day-long project. But you can do it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Linda. Such important encouragement. And keep up the good work. Keep on inspiring as you do. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Lindsay.
Bye.
Bye.